Hi, I'm Michael Lynch. I'm the director of the Humanities Institute at the University of Connecticut, and it's my great pleasure to welcome you to Radical Futures, Imagining the Media of Tomorrow, the symposium that we'll be hosting here over the next 2 days. About a decade ago, like a lot of people, I became worried about what digital technology was doing to us and what we were doing to it. And as a philosopher, I expressed my worry via a thought experiment. Imagine, I ran around the world saying, imagine that your smartphone was miniaturized to the point that it was embedded directly into your brain, such that downloading and uploading to the internet would be indistinguishable from thinking. And imagine the internet, as it were, became an internet of us. Of course, this is no longer just a thought experiment. It is a real experiment, a set of real experiments, and one that people like Elon Musk are famously now investing in. But the worry it raises remains. Worries about the embodied internet, about what embodied internet media does to us, and what, perhaps most importantly, we would do to it or with it. Some of these worries concern knowledge and how personalizing information online only inflates our bubbles, not bursting them. Some of these worries also concern about how our prejudices and biases are both baked into our media and how our media bakes them into us. And these worries too have become real, as the murders of Asian American women in Atlanta, and I think are testimony to that fact. When our racism gets baked into our digital culture, in our video games, and a president's tweets, we must accept the fact that the internet has become us, and we have become it. And that's why we need symposia like this, I think, to help us reimagine our relationship to media, however embedded it may turn out to be. And that's part of the mission of the Future of Truth project here at the Institute, a project that asks where the concepts of truth and knowledge are going and what the role may be in the coming media environment, and how both art and science can help us navigate these waters. Partnering with the American Museum of Natural History in New York City, we're constructing an exhibit led by Alexis Boylan here at the Institute that confronts these questions, and we're also sponsoring a podcast and symposia like this one to ask these hard questions. So welcome to UConn, and here's to having a radical and imaginative future. And now I'm going to turn the virtual floor over to my good friend and colleague, Professor Anke Finger, Professor of German Studies, Digital Media, Comparative Studies, and Comparative Literature here at UConn. Anke, welcome to the virtual stage.
Thank you so very much, Michael. I really appreciate the intro, and I want to welcome everybody and for joining us this morning or afternoon, wherever it is you are. Welcome everyone to the Radical Futures Imagining the Media of Tomorrow Symposium. The organizers, Christoph Ernst from the University of Bonn, Germany, and myself would like to express our deep gratitude to the Humanities Institute at the University of Connecticut for their support, especially the Future of Truth Initiative and the Digital Humanities and Media Studies, short DHMS initiative. We also wish to thank the University of Connecticut's conference services for their assistance in bringing us together today and tomorrow. All smooth operations over the course of the next 2 days are entirely thanks to them. Thanks are due to our colleagues chairing the 4 panels who are giving of their time and expertise. Welcome. I especially wish to welcome our speakers who will be contemplating radical futures and their imaginings together with us. We look forward to a wide range of conversations following the panels and during our 2 roundtables, one with special guest Kenneth Goldsmith. The Radical Futures Symposium brings together researchers from Germany, Canada, and the US to discuss both the future of media and forms and formats of imagination and imaginaries in the 21st century. Central to this discussion is the role of knowledge of the future for the imagination of digital media in a variety of potential social contexts. How can our imagination contribute to knowing the future? Which kinds of imaginaries do we consult for this purpose? Whose imaginaries receive and receives a voice? What past imaginations and imaginaries have infused the present? What diverse digital media can we conjure up for futures that may not reflect who we are today? What truths are available today that inform realities to come? This symposium is inspired by the publication of Media Futures, Theory and Aesthetics, co-authored by Christoph Ernst and Jens Schröter, and by the translation of Willem Flusser's retrofuturistic What If? 22 Scenarios in Search of Images, translated by Anke Finger and Kenneth Cronenberg, with an afterword by Kenneth Goldsmith, that is also part of Greenhouse Studios at the University of Connecticut. In our current situation, with the world's population still in the grips of a global pandemic, with relentless violence against minoritized groups, with great hopes for and simultaneous fears of a future managed through ever more complex media innovations, and with an increasing and aching need for social contact and human being together, we find ourselves at the threshold. Post-COVID and possibly pre another pandemic, what do we expect daily lives to look like? In our use of radical, we're not just contemplating questions or possibilities for radical change in social political ways. We're also suggesting the botanic meaning of radical, namely arising from a root or rhizome, the chemical use referencing the passing of atoms intact from one compound to another, or, in medical terms, eradicating disease and allowing for growth in healthy tissue. With that, we ask, what may need eradicating to assure health? What will pass on and continue? What will arise? Please welcome my colleague, Christoph Ernst.
Thank you, Anke. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon from Germany. My name is Christoph Ernst, and I'm an associated professor for media studies at the University of Bonn. As Anke has already said, one of the occasions for this symposium was the upcoming publication of the book Media Futures by Jens Schröter and myself. The book is a translation of a German book we wrote as part of a research project funded by the German Research Foundation dedicated to the media artist group Van Gogh TV. In this project, we discussed the role of, to use Sheila Jasanov's term, socio-technical imaginaries in the process of mediating various possible futures associated with new media. For Jasanov, socio-technical imaginaries rest on shared understandings of desirable future states of social order associated with science and technology. Regarding future media, these imaginaries and understandings rest on quite complex factors. First, there are structural factors like economic interests of companies and big capital, Apple, for example. Nation states and their institutions have their own agency. Think, for example, of the immense significance of institutions like DARPA or the RAND Corporation in media history. We find a broad spectrum of structural issues concerning race, class, and gender. We find different expectations between different knowledge groups, like, for example, engineers, designers, users, etc. Second, in order to analyze these complex structural conditions of the construction, or if you will, fabrication of imaginaries of future media, we have to look at imagination not only as a cognitive faculty, but as a diverse set of social practices, if you will, a doing imagination. Think, for example, of the distinction between prophecy and prognostics, utopia and dystopia, science fiction and science fact, art and design, entertainment and simulation, and so on. Third, when we think about future media and social orders associated with those media, we cannot just prolong the established trajectories of our current state of art, but must also consider deviations and interruptions. Thus, asking the question of what radical futures of media might be is linked with the radical imagination as a process of suspending and challenging our current imaginaries. This is the point of departure for the symposium, and we are very pleased that we have been able to attract so many top-class speakers for this undertaking. In this spirit, I want to hand over to Yohei and the first panel. Thank you very much.